Mr. From we are not to say, and then the message is very simple. I just wanted to ask a couple of questions in my and Pimpy, you know, those of us who sit back now share Ghana social media, the Ghanaian community, and in terms of what's happening on the radios, what's happening on social media, and other forms of media platforms. You see that people are coming to these media platforms to anybody at all to give them advice. People seek advice from lay people. People seek advice from pastors. In Ghana, the pastor is supposed to know everything. The pastor is supposed to be an expert in every aspect of our lives. I'm not for the one trust. Sometimes pastor no crown and yet regularized and I say standardized and I say and yet regulatory professions that have your certain standards in terms of accountability. See, we are so be a chaplain now. They just can't get up and be a chaplain, but they also have to be registered and belong to a member of a college. Then these standards in a college or regulatory bodies now. And also, na assign a nipano a shell so many subai, it will say, won't take advantage of the person of the customer training. Because oftentimes, you know, answer will be the problem, no catch you know. Nipano will high level of vulnerability. I think so, no, Nipano disclose a very private part of themselves at that time. Because our son will be in a problem, no, but I'll catch you. Not just some Hano and Casatis that they have a problem in terms of, you kind of saying, Adibiham, like they cannot contain the problem. And I said, the poor bear cannot solve it, and no, cannot be a money panel, a dinner problem about Sunni or Tiasi. It's Nipano, the answer that come as I'll be very chaplain. And now you're pastor, there are some standards and it's a level of accountability expected of them to first of all protect Nipana ordinance and Ebano because of the level of vulnerability. I think so. How and she share to say ethical principles and I say legal principles, it will say need to be adhered to. The being confidentiality and privacy. What you say. So, for example, people can ask them any additional boundaries because so obi they can ask much of somebody like a pastor or whoever, not to say you can't say power. Just say because the moment obi they can ask will elevate you to a level. I think so you're vulnerable. So there's a power in different, like power imbalance between the two. And no, people can easily take advantage of you sexually, emotionally, psychologically, and even financially. They could use the position to exploit you. And some ethical and your matter set privacy and maybe a council or cowas and intro. Now, on fun who and mercy. And I say, on put your safety and well being at risk. And no, I have standards people are keeping the panel accountable for those kinds of principles: privacy, confidentiality, boundaries, and setting conduct to prevent them from taking advantage of you. Boundary violations, they call it. Now, I did about me when they said, Ghana, I'm not for them extra ready for any lay person. Can I centre a pastor for any pastor, and there can be a range of problems. Medical, psychological, nearby if you sometimes hear very highly skilled professional with the Western Ghana need to make us similar any adult figure. I say in many cases a pastor and I am opinion or whatever, be over a marital problems. You catch your parents because in that society, the pastor is supposed to know everything, the Bushman is supposed to know everything. A Bushman head, and one or woman is supposed to know everything. And Many fools are and your money put in probably at risk. Meanwhile, Nipano, they may have a good intention, but they may not have the skill. And I'm near my accountability because SAR standards may accountability now is not held. There's nobody to keep those people in check. Oftentimes, they take advantage of the very people who send their problems through them. And no switch, the person may not have the knowledge or expertise to deal with the level of complexity of the problem. Now, I had it back. So, yes, and also now I'm capturing. It's a me person me count with this message in the same. Is it everybody that qualifies to be our counselor? Is it everybody who is qualified to be our advisor? Is it everybody that is qualified to provide guidance to us? They always have the capacity to do so. Do they have the knowledge, expertise, practice? And do they always have our interests? Say you do should be quiet, but say we'll probably not catch your business penny, or catch your woman, or catch your papa. But some penny mona, a customer. Do they always have our interests? Pastor now, what can I ask my children? How do you know the pastor no need interest more? You know. How do you know the pastor maybe on pair or Mawari or on penis? How do you know so who's paying or paying ye? How do you judge that? Indeed, the idea with society when they say, oh, I send out automatically, I was so catch was paying, I was so catch your mommy, I was so catch your papa, I was so catch your pastor. The idea of the person, you're trying to be possible. Because the real say I want more expertise for everything. They come for they don't like using professionals. Or yeah, dear nurse new or on a hop. Or yeah, dear physician or on a hop. Mostly a back physician on that problem when you're in advance. Or problem counselor or on hop. What you say? Or issue where you want power training lawyer new or hop. Baby, I'm not betting your cannas in a man. Couple can't down up because oh, yeah, but not now ask them, but they do it in a brochure level of accountability, the expertise. A lot of people are very professional, and like I said, run on nature to keep people or professionals very accountable about conduct, behavior. So, a mistake can not abuse it. And I say, or breach your privacy, and lock and hold them accountable. So there's a high level of standard for the person. Plus, once on any qualification or license to practice now, that will go through education to a certain level, meet standards here. But I go through training, what we're meeting a qualification now was it is a woman dear. Whatever the profession is, and you come for don't go to those people. In case of you don't seek advice from the pastor or whatever, but in the purchase of pure one expertise. Just say that those are the key things. Pure one expertise in the area. Or your pastor interested in my warrior Muslim. They may know a warrior Muslim, but they may not have the knowledge to deal with your type of warrior. They may know a warrior Muslim, but they may not be able to deal with your financial problem. So they may not have the expertise to deal with your husband's alcoholism. And as a gang behavior, the pastor may not. A professional may have an expertise in addiction treatment. Then yes, officer or pastor, be vampire editorial, so that's fine. But the no pono, how do you know say a pastor will not breach confidentiality in church members? And you can't run once in say situation. How do you know that? Idea what was your pain there? Maybe out here, sorry to say, it's a small town or small village. How can they know about yourself? Maybe I won't know, maybe we won't know about yourself. How can they understand the complexity of the system? It was a no now in the opportunity. Even if so pastor not a chrome how can they understand the system here fully and understand all the rules to be able to deal with a back problem and as the one person? As I said, we take away message and say, And yet adults we are in our life, the mechanism of dealing with problems, they may really be actually counterproductive and more helpful to us than probably we can think about. Because the person, for one, may not have the knowledge, may not have the knowledge to that extent, may not have the expertise to be able to deal with that level of problem in that context. So and sometimes they may not even have a good intention or may not even have our interest. So and no, there were problem, and yes, it is very natural. Say, well, problem in terms of whether catch you be a mean thing, but my saying, and I say, the society we got a lot of things wrong because the idea is that opinion in our own community between us and one. Or we see opinion between us and one, or suffer between us and one, radio presenter between us and one. Yes, they may have come across some problems. They may have dealt with some problems. How do you know that they have the expertise to deal with your level of problem? How do you know they will protect your privacy and confidence? The idea is to say, yeah, develop a habit, say a problem, maybe say solve it. Let's seek out the person that we think has the knowledge, the training, the expertise, even if, say, at least we can trust the information, they can protect our privacy, and they can help us actually effectively resolve our problem. People, why? In our society, for example, there are certain types of people who do problem manner. They are biased in one way. They're biased in favor of pain, or they're biased in favor of men. It's no matter what not your fault. And so they are not problem. Your fault. So they are saying. It's just as a non-consumer. Now you can say your problem. You seek out the person or the most expertise or the most knowledge or most trusted or not. Any problem was they catch them. And yet Obian qualified to deal with every aspect of the problem. The whole thing about jack of all trades, anyway, this is just my advice. Thank you and take care. Bye bye. Have a great time.